Hi, everybody. Joe Cioffi here, Weather in 5 days in 5 minutes. Tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show, we're going to talk about this split flow that's got three storm systems embedded in it. The one up in eastern Canada, the one in the Gulf of Mexico, and the one that is now coming out of the Pacific Northwest and moving into the plains. We'll let you know how this all impacts the weather here in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show at 7:35 p.m. Eastern Time. Lovely day for most people in the Northeast as we check out the surface map, which is showing the same low sitting south of James Bay, the same high sitting in West Virginia. And then we've got this frontal boundary offshore that runs through the Carolinas and across northern Georgia, then snakes back as a warm front in the Plain States. And also down in the Gulf of Mexico, we have a non-tropical low-pressure system that has developed, and it's moving eastward. And you can see on the satellite loop, we're kind of sandwiched in between here with sunshine. Now, there are clouds when you go up into upstate New York and northernmost Pennsylvania. Even there, they're starting to thin out a bit. And on up into western New York and New England, that's still that instability from that strong upper air storm that you could still see the well-defined rotation there north of Lake Huron. Hasn't really moved much in the last 4 days. Meanwhile, because that's there, it is good because it keeps all this tropical moisture that is coming out of the remnants of Hurricane Lydia and additional subtropical moisture running through Texas and across the Gulf states and into the southeastern part of the United States. That is that subtropical jet is actually pushing all that moisture from west to east. So we're not seeing northward progression here. So we're kind of right in this sweet spot, sort of in between the two systems. And then, of course, we've got the energy that is with a weather system that moved into the Pacific Northwest, and now it's going to come over the Rockies and make its way through the Plain States as we move through the next couple of days, and that is going to be the weather system for the weekend. Here's the radar. Some scattered showers in upstate New York, some patchy showers up in Maine, a few scattered showers up in northern Vermont, but nothing when you get down to the coastal plain. And then you have to head down into the Gulf states, particularly the lower Gulf states where we've got areas of moderate to heavy rain. In southeast Louisiana, yippee, they're under severe drought. And some of that rain now moving into Georgia, just showing up on the radars, even pushing aloft into South Carolina and even into parts of North Carolina. Again, this is not going to be moving to the north. And we've got precipitation, rain, and some snow, by the way, that's going to be falling in parts of the Rockies in western Wyoming, for example, where we've got some winter weather advisories up. Let me see if they went to any kind of winter storm warnings. So check the watches and warnings. And yeah, there are even a few winter storm warnings, winter weather advisories in parts of Colorado, winter storm warnings up in a handful of counties up in Wyoming. So that system is moving east. High wind warnings for parts of Nebraska, West Kansas, and easternmost Colorado with this storm system that is coming out of the plains. The Storm Prediction Center for today has a slight risk of severe weather in northern and central Florida. Also a marginal risk from South Dakota, southeast South Dakota, and Nebraska eastward into Illinois. Tomorrow, the Storm Prediction Center's risk area is going to be in Florida again as this low moves eastward and eventually exits off the southeast coast of the United States. And we've got a marginal to slight risk in Nebraska and parts of northeast Kansas. And as we move on to day three, and day three is Friday into Saturday, marginal risk for eastern Iowa, eastern Missouri, and pretty much the entire state of Illinois. WPC on their new rainfall forecast has actually cut the rainfall amounts back a bit for areas in southern New England, for Long Island, and the northern half of New Jersey to about a half to 3/4 of an inch, a little bit more. A little stripe there of an inch of rain coming into central and south Jersey. The heaviest rains more offshore. You see the big rains in the western lakes and on up through the plains, and also down in the southeast and Florida. With all this moisture that is moving eastward. So the big issue here is the fact that we've got this blocking pattern. We've been talking about this on the Joe and Joe Weather Show. And of course, the old upper low over James Bay, we've noted the last couple of days that the models are taking longer and longer for it to get out of the way, and it really never completely gets out of the way. It moves down to Nova Scotia, and that's going to force this next system to take a track a bit further to the south. It's also not as well developed as what models were indicating, so that's because of the fact that there's less room. If you've got an important vortex that's just to your northeast, there's not a whole lot of room for things to happen, and as a result, the track of this storm is actually going to wind up being further south than advertised earlier. So the Gulf flow moves out. Obviously, the rest of today is fine. Tomorrow is fine. Friday is fine. Then we'll be in the 60s to near 70 just about every day. And then Friday night, as we start to see clouds increase, you see that low in northern Indiana. There's a secondary low that forms right near the South Carolina coast. The northern fringe of the rain cuts off just north and east of New York City on the GFS. It's a little further north on the overnight European runs. But the new surface low actually forms, instead of being southeast of Atlantic City, now it's east of easternmost North Carolina. So this is good news for areas from northern New Jersey and northeastern Pennsylvania, north and east, that the rainfall will be less. Also, on the other side of it, the further south track does bring some heavy rains to southeast Pennsylvania, southern New Jersey, come Saturday night into early Sunday morning. We'll probably see weather conditions deteriorate during the day. Otherwise, it is going to be a gloom and doom type weekend, because no matter how much rain we get, we're still going to have to deal with a lot of clouds. And because we have that large upper low hanging back, it's likely that we're going to be dealing with clouds and maybe some areas of rain or showers. Even on Monday. I'm going to throw them in for Monday and Tuesday, and possibly maybe even into the part of Wednesday before it finally pulls away and we see some genuine improvement later on next week. So we'll, of course, go through this in great detail tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show right here on my YouTube channel at 7:35 p.m. Eastern Time. Also, this podcast is available now on Google Podcasts, which will soon be known as YouTube Music. And Google Podcasts will be going away and being merged into YouTube Music. So find us. We're there. We'll see you later.